First of all, I'd like to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. And I'd like to start by telling you a story about last Thursday. I got in my car and I travelled down to the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne and sat in the front yard of Tyson Yunkaporta and sat around the fire, and we had a really great yarn about what we're going to talk about today, worked through the issues, and at one point he turned to me and he said, "Ben, do you think I could say the word motherfucker? Is that the right crowd for it?" And I said, I don't really think that I'm qualified to answer that, bit above my pay grade. But then, as I read his book, Right Story, Wrong Story, I actually read a passage and there was a great section about how taboo language is part of a suite of evidence-based Indigenous ways of telling stories that encode stories and increase people's memory about those stories. So we actually have a certified framework for using the word motherfucker. So we'll see how we go. Tyson also puts it another way in the book when he says that all yarns need some messy play and laughter. And I think that's a really great way to put it as well, a little bit less sharp. So Tyson's an academic, an art critic and a researcher, and he's a member of the Arpletch clan of Far North Queensland. He carves traditional tools and weapons, and is also a founder of the Indigenous Knowledge Systems Lab at Deakin University in Melbourne. He's the author of Sand Talk, How Indigenous Thinking Can Save the World, released in 2019, and the just-released Right Story, Wrong Story, Adventures in Indigenous Thinking. Now, in preparing for this talk, I've done a deep dive into Tyson world, and I can tell you, it's been a little bit revelatory for me, and really like a perfect antidote to what happened with the referendum the other week, in terms of connecting with Indigenous ways of thinking and just seeing things from Tyson's amazing perspective. It's an honour to be sitting down with him today to talk about some of his thoughts in his new book about Right Story, Wrong Story, about how Indigenous perspectives can be applied to ideas about disinformation and the public discourse. And just what's going on in the world at the moment, which is pretty scary in terms of the ability for disinformation to impact people who are trying to do good in the world as well. So if everyone could welcome Tyson Yunkaporta to the stage.
Hey! How you going, brother?
So Tyson.
Yeah, boss.
We're going to fuck some shit up?
Yeah. Just some housekeeping first. Someone needs to put a fire through that dry grass there. When will they learn? And Chantel, out the back, can you keep an eye on my bag? All right, because I don't trust these no-voting bastards in this city here. What else? Oh yeah, just probably should say this out the back, just personal.
Yeah.
Just a bit of advice.
Yeah.
Dress for the job you want, not the job you got.
Yeah.
Purpose. Boom.
Yeah.
Ancient wisdom. Bucket loads of it right here. Yeah. And hang on. Just check. Yep, my fly's up.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe how many keynotes I've done, and it gets a bit breezy halfway through. It's the worst thing about being Aboriginal in Australia is nobody ever tells you. They're like thinking, it might be a cultural thing or something. No, that's a universal thing. Nobody wants to see that. And I think that's the basis for reconciliation right there. Fixed it.
Done, tick.
Yep. Or cross.
So moving right along, I have to say that one of the best things I've done over the past 2 weeks is buy the audiobook of Right Story, Wrong Story. And I'm not actually a big one for the audiobook version of things, but I heard you say in a podcast that it's a really great oral text, and when you make a compliment about your work, you pay attention. Yeah.
Because I usually hate it.
Yes.
All of it. I really hate that book.
Really?
I can't get into it. I can't get past the first paragraph.
Well, can I say...
but reading it aloud, like in the sound booth, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this works. This is good.
Everyone, do not listen to a word he says about this. It's amazing. But so I bought the audiobook. I was actually halfway through the written version, and I bought the audiobook, and the audiobook is amazing. The way that you read it, your accents are extraordinary. He does a great Geordie accent, like who would have known? So I just thought we'd start with a passage that I've identified just about where we are in the world at the moment and the political discourse to kick us off, and also show everyone your amazing reading skills.
Oh, hang on, I've got like 8 pairs of glasses here and nano chains all over the shop, and it's probably gonna... Here we go. What do we got? All right. That's a bit dark. The whole world did a workshop recently, starting around 2016, inducting us all into the wrong story and bad relation of the art of the deal. Most of our interactions are operating from this pattern now, which means there is always a winner and a loser. And the winner is the one who tells the most lies and does the most damage. The loser says, "Please stop that, it's hurting me." To which the winner replies, "I'm not doing that, you're doing that. You're hurting me. You're crazy, you're imagining things. And now you're gaslighting me. Fatty." The loser sputters at the outrageous physics of this 5D chess attack, tries to deal with each lie in turn, becomes exhausted and then pathetic, and later either depressed or vindictive. Meanwhile, the winner spins off into righteous moral panic, recruiting supporters and kicking up more mendacious dust. Stop hitting yourself. I know you are, but what am I? For the winners in this ridiculous game, the same nastiness that worked for them in kindergarten still works today. The losers are also trapped in the patterns of helplessness they learned in their infancy. Both roles are twisted and grounded in narcissism and entitlement, feeding into and off each other. Between every movement and every tribe, down to every tiny kinship pair, this curse is inflating wrong relation exponentially everywhere the signal can reach, and it reaches everywhere. The worst player wins the game, and power is the prize in every corner of every home. Maybe Indigenous wisdom will save the day. Not likely. The art of the deal is everywhere now. It's a shameful and shameless process. Flip, lie, contradict yourself, double down and yell until everything's broken, and then enjoy your unearned social advancement as you stand upon the smoking ruins of your relationships. Sorry, that was dark as hell.
So the first question I want to ask you about that is, how do we get here? And has it ever been thus in some ways, or is this a new thing?
Hang on. I got different glasses for that. All right, how do we get here? Oh, I don't even know. Look, it's always been around, wrong story. It's just that, like, mostly we've been able to deal with it in the past. In Australia, we had so many cataclysms, and all our dreaming stories are about that. You know, it's basically dealing with life's two big questions. How do you deal with change, and how do you deal with arseholes? You know, and dealing with arseholes, that's the wrong story part. And that's, you know, in small groups, that's the gossipy stuff and the false witness and all that. And usually we punch that out and sort it out. And you can do that at a small scale. And there's always been punishment for that. Rest of the world hasn't worked it out. Oh, I got to tell you this. Yesterday I heard a story. It was from, I won't say which European country, but it was from Europe. And okay, this is their law, the LORE law. And it just blew me away. And I think maybe that's where the wrong story comes from. But anyway, it's this guy is getting attacked by a snake, and a heron comes down and, you know, pecks the snake and saves his life. And then the guy grabs the heron and puts it in a bag, goes, oh, well, I'm going to eat this heron for dinner. And he goes home and he tells his wife the story. And she says, you can't, that heron saved your life. You've got to let the heron go. And she grabs the bag and she lets the heron out. And the heron pecks out her eyes. And that's the end of the story. That's the moral of this story. It's just like every interaction is a zero-sum game. Don't ever do anything nice to people. They don't appreciate it. And they'll just take advantage of you and rip you.
Like Scorpion and the Frog.
Yeah. And I think, you can extrapolate that out to all the really bad misinformation, disinformation. And that's the thing. It's not just, not just like the ticks and the crosses misinfo and disinfo. I'm talking hardcore disinfo, like those ones running around with the all-seeing eye before, and those stories about the, ancient banking families ruling the world. The Jews is what they mean. And all these things, just the most horrendous, ridiculous conspiracy theories. And these ones are just like lube for all the other ones to get through, because it just stretched that Overton window really wide. So that, the most ridiculous story became just normalized for about 20% of the population. And that gave your soft conservatives heaps of permission and heaps of wriggle room to just spread, less obviously stupid lies. So that's how it works.
Maybe it's a good time to just give a definition for wrong story, right story, wrong story?
Yeah. Well, right story has a decent lineage, It's usually coming out of something good, and it's tested, tried and true over, generations, or, at least a decade or something like that. That's right story. Like The Voice was right story, because that, it took the
Yes
time.
campaign.
Yeah. The Voice, that was right story, because that was like, about 3/4 of Aboriginal Australia was engaged with that in a yes kind of way, and building up that story, over a decade, everybody talking, everybody with different views on it, etc. That's fine. Wrong story is usually unilateral, and it comes out of someone bearing false witness or trying to whip up a story, like Catherine the Great is having sex with horses. That was one of them, the original ones. And that was because she was trying to put an end to the feudal system. And so they did her in with bad story.
So disinformation is pretty ancient.
Yeah, it's ancient. Different people have different ways of dealing with it. Protocols of the Elders of Zion that Tsarist Russia put out back in the day, that's just been recycled, that bad, wrong story. So it actually has a long lineage, but it's a bad lineage of bad actors. So, the Birches Society in the United States, all of the big conspiracy theories about the Rothschilds and blah-de-blah, most of them really strongly, anti-Semitic, and, finding that scapegoat.
So when we talk about the referendum result, it seemed to me that maybe part of the problem was that you had one side that was earnestly and in a heartfelt way engaging in right story, and you had the other side that was ruthlessly and very effectively engaging in wrong story, and it may have highlighted the power of wrong story. Do you think it was possible for right story to be deployed and that referendum to have been successful?
Well, I always look at the margins. Like, people don't pay attention to the extreme ends of the bell curve. They're always focused on the top of the bell there, but it's the stories at the margins is where you find, it's where you find the patterns, the self-terminating algorithms that can disrupt the whole system. So that's where you got to look. So I looked in the really marginal places, that sovereign citizen movement and 5G protesters and anti-maskers and COVID denialists and all these sorts of things. And they all had a few things in common. In Australia, the two things they had in common was really strong anti-trans hate and really strong anti the voice. And they had heaps of Aboriginal people on board too. There was an auntie, and you think you can still find her online, talking about the New World Order and how it was all a big Jewish conspiracy to, take over Australia. And you found the same thing back with all the controversy around Dark Emu and around Bruce Pascoe. It was like Maury Schwartz was, installing him as a way to, take everything away from white people, and it was a great replacement thing. Like they're gonna breed out all the white people. They're gonna exterminate. It's funny. Here's how you tell wrong story. The pattern is if a powerful group does a whole heap of shitty things to a group that's powerless, they will usually make wrong story about how everyone else is doing that to them. So the great replacement is this big genocide, right? When they're wiping out Christendom, Christians, white people all around the world. They're taking the children, and there's child sex trafficking, germ warfare, and pandemics, all this sort of things. These are actual things that happen to us, and is still happening to us, as Aboriginal people. So the group that's doing that, they then take on that story, and that's what's known as the fascist turn, when the when the dominant culture starts to take on victim status, the victim status of the people they're oppressing. That's always the fascist turn. You really got to look out when that happens.
And you also talk about the flip side of that coin is the fact that Indigenous people are actually quite susceptible to conspiracy theories and disinformation because they have been subject to actual, like, what is stolen generations but a vast actual conspiracy against Indigenous people.
Suddenly we hear settlers talking about these conspiracies, and I don't know, but it's story too, and there's spirit in it. It's all, there's a reason why it's called Conspirituality. There is spirit. It's a war in heaven, a war between good and evil. Angels versus demons. Christendom versus, Judaica or whatever. It's always this big spiritual battle. And so there's these spiritual narratives. What do we get from the government? There's no spirit there. The government has to be secular. So it's a bit boring, and there's no story. It's all exposition, and I don't know. Exposition's boring, and it's fact-based, and nobody wants to hear it.
But is that what happened with Yes and No? That No just harness narrative better?
Yeah, Yes didn't have any good narratives. And it's weird, like I had people standing up and trying to appeal to the heart of, I don't know, a place where at least 60% of people haven't got one. And I don't know, a lot of people, had spiritual narratives around it. And, because you've got to imagine this is paranoid people here. It's like a temporarily sort of thriving first world economy, and temporarily because it's based on extraction. That's not going to last forever. They haven't got long left on that, actually. So it's a temporarily prosperous Anglo-Christian outpost on blackfellas land in the middle of Asia. And they've been terrified about this for 150 years. All the nativist societies and the eugenics societies and the bloody, white Australia policy. Alfred Deakin. Not supposed to say that because that's my institution. There, look, I said it.
I remember when the Cambridge Analytica scandal happened in 2016, and if people remember, that was when a right-wing communications firm basically harvested unknowingly harvested the data of 50 million Facebook users, and then used that data to target ads to get Donald Trump elected. And I remember there being a discourse after that from the left which said, we need Cambridge Analytica, but for good.
Everybody thinks this for good.
And so the question is it time for progressive people to think about harnessing these tools if it's in the interest of fighting back and starting to get back in the game?
Well, you got to look to your law, and you got to look to your the central law of your culture to find the answers. So I'd say you got to look at Lord of the Rings. Is where you got to go there, and the good guys, they had to fight they had to fight off a whole heap of orcs. These are these motherless beings that are just, evil, and it's okay to kill them. It's all right. You can kill them, and your heart rate doesn't even increase. It's not just kill them all, because they're all like. So there was this black orb called a Palantir. You remember that? Gandalf had been carrying that around because then wizards were looking like you could see into everything, and you could use this as a weapon. Maybe you could use it for good to kill all. Even Gandalf wasn't stupid enough. He wrapped it up and got rid of it. Peter Thiel, on the other hand, he owns that. He called it Palantir. He named his business Palantir after that. And he's Cambridge Analytica. They were small players. I don't know. I remember after the global financial crisis, they were like, we got to do something about these rich people. We got to actually get some white-collar criminals. And they're like, here, we've got him. This Persian guy, he has $1 million. So they got him and threw him under the bus. Cambridge Analytica was the same. They're small-time players, like. And a couple of what, Donald Trump calls shithole countries, changing elections around to make young people not vote, and they tricked them into that, et cetera, They know how to target people, et cetera. But that was small fry. Palantir is massive, and it's not the only one. There's giants out there, and they know how to press all the right buttons, and they know that it'll just go straight to InfoWars, and then from InfoWars it'll go straight to the yoga classes. Which frickin' it does, eh? Like that is like, that it used to be a kind of blood-brain barrier between those two, not anymore. They're there, like, hold the line, Canada. I don't know if you remember that, but that truckers, they had yoga teachers, like marching to drum circles. Ancient wisdom. Just can't get past it. Did I answer the question?
Not really, but that's okay. You actually talk about being red-pilled yourself.
Yeah.
During the writing of Sand Talk, and you went deep into Russian propaganda, and you came out the other end hating Hillary and being pro-Gaddafi. So what hope do any of us have if you are susceptible to that?
All right.
Well, tell us about that experience.
I came back. Well, parts of me came back. I can't help it. Like I can reason it out and think Hillary's not any worse than any of the other neoliberal bastards who've been Secretary of State or anything else, but I hate her guts still. I can't help it. I just can't stand her. So I know that I'm pilled still somewhere in there. It was like 3 years of Russia Today and the X-22 report and a few different things. I'm watching that every day. Oh, these guys are making sense, This is next minute, chemtrails. Oh, yeah. You find it there, Sand Talk. There's a whole thing about the weather, and it's supposed to be about, complexity theory and stuff, and the butterfly effect, and, geoengineering and the weather modification companies that you can hire to make sure it doesn't rain on your wedding day and stuff like that. But it was chemtrail stuff. I was just like saying chemtrails without saying chemtrails, really. Yeah.
So given you've been to the other side and kind of come back,
I kind of came back.
Can you give us some hope about how we combat this?
Look, I don't trust people who just say, Sand Talk was great. I'm like, what, all of it? Really? There's weird people from America contacting me, thanking me for Sand Talk because it helped them figure out governance methods in their compound to keep their women in line. You traffic disinformation. You're weaponizing stuff that you can't take it back. Once you put it out there, you become one of these ancient wisdom influencers. I tell you. It's really bad. And it's not our fault. Look, half our elders are doing this. Half of them. The ones who have to speak all the time because you get that audience capture. Yeah. And you have to be a galaxy brain, like a polymath. Because, Black Siri doesn't mean we've got to explain Aboriginal stuff to people all the time. It means we've got to be able to talk on any topic and give the Aboriginal perspective. And like now, every panel got to have a black fellow on it. So it's like, this is a conference on like nucleotides. We're going to have Tyson, can you talk about nucleotides? Yeah, 40,000 years, nucleotides, like, and like, I don't know, in our way, you're allowed to lie to people if they're pushy, if they're pushing you on something, you're allowed to just, or if you try and keep them away from proper knowledge, higher stages of knowledge, you can lie to them. So with that perfect storm of stuff and Russia Today, boom, Sand Talk. There's really good stuff in there. It's like 3/4 great stuff because it's not mine. It's elders who gave me specific messages they want me to spread and story, and so I did that, and that's good. But then almost any time I'm opening my mouth in there, it's just bloody... They had to remove a whole chapter on like there was just a pro-Gaddafi chapter. And thank God, because later I found out about the sex dungeon. And that would have been very bad.
So in some ways, right story, wrong story is sort of an apology for the wrong story aspects of Sand Talk?
It's just trying to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm mopping, and then the broom handle's like smashing that window. And I'm like, and it's just getting worse. And then the broom breaks into little pieces, and they're marching and marching. It's water, Mickey Mouse, drowning, wait for the wizard. Jason Fox, where's he gone? Need him. Stop this brooms.
Okay, so...
It was... Look, I lost my shit in that. Like, Sand Talk was... I wrote it in 2 weeks on a really severe manic episode. So lots of grandiose stuff. And like, you could do that. You can bang out a bestseller in 2 weeks when you're on your highs. This one was 2 years of lows on lockdown. And me and my partner both work in universities, and they didn't come back for the duration. So we were just in our house with neurodivergent children and just ripping strips off each other's souls for 2 years. I lost it. I lost my shit. And that's the book to come out. And it's Dante. I based the whole thing on Dante's Inferno because we're going through all these circles of developmental hell and come out the other side with like sort of uncoaching. We uncoached ourselves. Me and the reader, us two, come through at the end and just trying to figure out all these pathologies and then noticing the same patterns in everyone and in the whole world and in systems. And I don't know, I think it helped. But I only got diagnosed after I wrote it though. Because when I wrote that, I was only a danger to myself and others. Yeah. And the police never get involved when that's the case. And I don't know, they don't refer you to a psych or something like that. But I started damaging property, and then the police did get involved because that's more important than us damaging ourselves and each other. It's like, no, don't smash cars. Don't throw rocks at people's houses. You're not, don't run around in the middle of Melbourne with spears, like breaking windows and stuff. That's no good. So I ended up on this 90-day court order, and it was either that or jail. And I finally got some help, and it was really good. And I'm on meds now, so you can see I'm really sort of, normal. Yeah. So the third book, that's going to be the one. It's going to be a trilogy, like The Lord of the Rings.
So I might just ask about ancient Indigenous wisdom here.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Change gears a bit.
Yep. How can we apply that to increase productivity?
You do poke a lot of fun at the idea of ancient Indigenous wisdom in this book, and you write, "I've been to many conferences and talks about Indigenous knowledge and sustainability and have read numerous papers on the topic. Most carry the same simplistic message. First Peoples have been here for X thousands of years. They know how to live in balance in this place, and we should learn from them to find solutions to sustainability issues today. Then they offer some isolated examples of sustainable practices pre-colonisation, and that's it. The audience is left wondering, yes, but how? What insight does this offer today for the problems we're experiencing now?
Yeah.
So given that...
It'd be like me actually setting fire to that grass on the stage. Yeah.
And at the risk of falling into the Black Siri trap...
we got to wrap up too.
Really?
Yeah, I just got a message on the screen there.
Okay. Thanks. How can you provide some practical wisdom to this audience about, beyond that simplistic, reductive story that you say that we always hear, about embodying Indigenous knowledge systems and Indigenous wisdom into their lives and their businesses and their organisations?
30 seconds. All right, good. Well, it's just what happened just now. You know, blackfellas were aware of our surroundings. I saw the wrap-up thing. You didn't see it. That's the thing. You pay... pay attention to your context, like your relational context, okay? And do it like family, yes, and local, regional, national, global. You have relational context and there are narratives. And, you know, you have to pay attention to that context all the time, because sometimes wrong story is nothing more than right story in the wrong place. You know, sometimes males get sexually assaulted, and that's right story. And you know, there are things for that and places for that. The place for that is not in a thread where where women are just trying to be heard. Me too. That's not where you put it in. Men too. No, bruz. That's wrong story because it's in the wrong place. Pay attention to your context, your relational context, and just be in that. It's not hard. Find the right story then. That's that's it. And that's why I didn't do the Dave Chappelle couch bit we were talking about out the back, because that would be wrong story. Yeah. You guys will be looking that up afterwards. Yeah. It's the Rick James bit. Yes.
So that might be a
funny.
Good time to wrap up, as the sign says.
Yeah.
So can everyone give a warm round of applause for Tyson Yunkaporta?
Yay. See, but a man.
Yeah.
That's it.